In the frozen twilight, 500 feet below Lake Superior, there is a place where death has no power. Here, divers have encountered the Old Man of the Lake, a sailor from a 1,927 shipwreck, still standing at his post, his skin and clothes perfectly preserved by the icy tomb-like water. This isn't a scene from a horror movie. It is a chilling reality of the Great Lakes. To the casual tourist, these are vast blue playgrounds. But to the mariner, they are geological sirens that harbor a lethal secret. Why do these inland waters possess a physical memory that refuses to let anything go? How can a body of water thousands of miles from the salt spray of the Atlantic generate 30-foot rogue waves that snap 600-foot steel freighters like dry twigs? We've been taught to call them lakes, but beneath the surface lies an identity so powerful it defies the very definition of freshwater. Today, we go beyond the postcards to dissect 16 mysteries that hide in plain sight. Stay with us until the very end, because the final revelation will change everything you thought you knew about the ground beneath your feet. Ready to dive in? Secret 1. The immensity of Superior and the global freshwater reservoir. In maritime science, labeling Superior a lake is a misnomer. It is a liquid titan of such proportions that it defies human intuition. Holding an estimated 3 quadrillion gallons of water, Superior represents roughly 10% of the world's surface freshwater. To visualize this volume, imagine tipping the entire basin of Superior and spreading its contents across the landmass of North and South America. Every square inch of those 2 continents would be submerged under 1 foot of water. We are analyzing 2,900 cubic miles of liquid mass sitting in a single depression in the Earth's crust. The origins of this reservoir are a legacy of the last ice age, a geological battery that has remained largely unchanged for millennia. The logistics of refilling this basin are impossible by any human standard. If you were to run a standard garden hose at full pressure into an empty Superior basin, the race against the laws of stellar evolution would be a losing one. It would take approximately 4-5 billion years, the current age of the Earth, to fill it to the brim. This massive volume creates a unique phenomenon known as thermal inertia. Because the lake contains so much mass, it barely warms during the summer and rarely freezes entirely in the winter. This creates a permanent cold storage environment that acts as a climate-altering engine, dictating the weather patterns for the entire North American Midwest. Secret 2. The fourth coastline and the illusion of boundaries. While American geographic consciousness is often dominated by the Atlantic and Pacific, mariners and the U.S. Coast Guard operate within a different reality, the fourth coastline. The combined shoreline of the 5 Great Lakes stretches over 10,000 miles. To put this in perspective, the Great Lakes shoreline is longer than the coastlines of Australia, Brazil, or Norway. If you focus specifically on the state of Michigan, its freshwater coastline alone is longer than the entire U.S. Atlantic seaboard from Maine to Florida. This vastness creates a maritime environment indistinguishable from the open ocean. A sailor standing on the bridge of a 1,000-foot freighter in the middle of Lake Huron or Superior sees no land in any direction. They are navigating a territory larger than many sovereign nations. However, unlike the open ocean where a ship has thousands of miles of deep water to maneuver, this fourth coastline is a treacherous maze of rocky shoals and narrow channels. Here, land is often more of a threat than a sanctuary. During a storm, the proximity to the jagged, shallow coast creates a lee-shore trap, where wind and waves push vessels toward destruction, making this one of the busiest and most dangerous commercial shipping corridors on the planet. Secret 3. The Mackinac Paradox and the Hydrological Truth. For centuries, naming conventions have maintained a convenient lie, that Lake Michigan and Lake Huron are two separate entities. However, hydrologists and structural engineers recognize a different truth. Scientifically, Michigan and Huron are a singular body of water. They are connected by the Straits of Mackinac, a 5-mile-wide channel that functions less like a river and more like a massive liquid artery. Because both basins sit at the exact same elevation, the water does not flow between them in a traditional sense. Instead, it maintains a perfect, constant equilibrium. They rise and fall as one. When a massive low-pressure system sits over Lake Michigan, pushing water levels down, the straits allow Huron to compensate instantly. They are a singular aquatic titan with two lobes. This hydrological unity means that any environmental or chemical change in one basin eventually becomes the problem of the other. They are bound in a marriage of water that defies human maps, forming the largest single lake by surface area in the world when measured correctly. This connection is the beating heart of the system. When one lake experiences a seiche, a weather-driven tide, the other feels the pulse. Secret 4. The St. Lawrence Seaway and the Continental Water Elevator. The most staggering engineering feat associated with these seas is their connection to the global ocean. It is a mystery to many how a salty and ocean-going vessel can end up docked in Duluth, Minnesota, located in the geographic center of the continent, 2,342 miles from the Atlantic. This is achieved via the St. Lawrence Seaway, a monumental system of canals and locks that functions as a continental water elevator. Because the Great Lakes sit high above sea level superior, being the highest at roughly 600 feet, ships must literally climb the continent. As a vessel moves inland, it enters a series of locks where millions of gallons of water are pumped in, lifting the ship section by section until it reaches the elevation of the next lake. This marvel transformed cities like Duluth and Chicago into international seaports, allowing iron ore and grain to be shipped directly to Europe or Asia. However, this engineering victory came with a steep biological price. These elevators provided a gateway for over 180 invasive species to bypass the natural barrier of Niagara Falls, forever altering the chemistry and ecology of these inland seas. Secret 5. The Physics of Failure. Why freshwater is a silent killer. This leads us to the most critical forensic reality of these waters: the lethal difference between salt and freshwater. To a ship's architect, this is a matter of life and death centered on buoyancy and molecular density. Salt water is dense. Its mineral content provides a powerful upward force. Freshwater, however, is thinner and less dense. Scientifically, a ship sits approximately 5% deeper in the Great Lakes than it does in the ocean. This is the buoyancy trap. A freighter loaded to its maximum safety limit in the Atlantic becomes dangerously overburdened the moment it enters the Great Lakes. It loses its reserve buoyancy, the extra height of the hull above the waterline. In an Atlantic storm, a ship's buoyancy helps it ride the swells. But in the less dense freshwater of the lakes, a ship doesn't ride the waves. it plows through them. Combined with the fact that Great Lakes waves are short-period, steeper and closer together than ocean waves, a ship can find its bow and stern trapped in two different crests while its middle hangs over a hollow trough. Without the lift of salt water, the ship's own weight, often 60,000 tons of steel, can cause the hull to hog or sag, leading to catastrophic structural failure. This is why ships like the SS Edmund Fitzgerald vanished in seconds. They were pulled under by the lack of buoyancy, as the freshwater failed to provide the lift necessary to survive the Three Sisters waves. In these lakes, you are in a constant, high-stakes battle against the very physics of the water itself. Secret 6. The 9,000-year-old ghost forest, Huron's biological vault. If you thought the Great Lakes were merely vast basins of water, the lightless depths of Lake Huron offer a chilling, tangible correction. In 2009, underwater archaeologists conducting a survey discovered something that seemingly defied the laws of organic decay: a standing forest of cedar and pine trees, still rooted firmly in the lakebed under 120 feet of water. These are not petrified or fossilized remains turned to stone. They are 9,000-year-old biological monuments preserved in their original wooden state. In the oceans, wood is quickly consumed by Teredo navalis, or shipworms, which can reduce a massive oak hull to dust in decades. However, the Great Lakes act as a sterile cold storage vault. What makes this discovery hauntingly human is the forensic evidence found upon the stumps, prehistoric axe marks. 9 millennia ago, during the early Holocene, the water muck of the Huron Basin was significantly lower, creating a dry, fertile valley. Ancient Paleo-Americans lived, hunted, and worked within these groves. When the massive glacial dams finally breached and the water levels surged, the valley was swallowed whole. Because the deep water is near freezing and nearly devoid of oxygen, the wood did not rot. These trees have stood in a silent, submerged twilight for 90 centuries. Their bark and tool marks so well preserved, they look as though they were cut yesterday. They serve as a submerged time capsule of a lost world. Secret 7. The Stonehenge of the North and the Mastodon Mystery. Further west, nestled within the sapphire waters of Grand Traverse Bay in Lake Michigan, researchers encountered a structure that fundamentally challenges our timeline of human civilization in North America. Arranged in a perfect, intentional 40-foot circle lies a series of massive stones, a site now colloquially known as the Stonehenge of the Americas. This formation, sitting in approximately 40 feet of water, predates the Great Pyramids of Giza by several thousand years. While the arrangement alone is a marvel of ancient engineering, the crowning mystery is a single granite boulder located within the circle. Upon this stone is a faint yet unmistakable petroglyph of a mastodon, an Ice Age titan that has been extinct for over 10,000 years. This engraving was hidden from the destructive erosion of wind, rain, and human interference for 10 millennia by the lake's protective embrace. It suggests that humans were not only present in the Great Lakes Basin during the retreat of the glaciers, but they were also creating complex symbolic monuments and documenting the megafauna they lived alongside. The lake acted as a vault, protecting a piece of human heritage that should have vanished into the soil of history long ago. Secret 8. The Eyes of the Abyss. Side scan sonar and ROV exploration. To uncover such elusive secrets, modern researchers rely on a high-tech arsenal designed for maritime forensics. Searching the Great Lakes is often compared to exploring deep space. The water at the bottom of Superior or Huron is pitch black, under immense crushing pressure and dangerously cold. This is where side-scan sonar and ROV, remotely operated vehicle, technology become the bridge between myth and science. The process begins with side-scan sonar, which is towed behind a research vessel. It emits fan-shaped acoustic pulses that bounce off the lake floor, returning data that is processed into a photo-like acoustic map. Once a potential target is identified, researchers deploy ROVs. These tethered underwater drones are equipped with ultra-high-definition 4K cameras, powerful LED arrays, and sophisticated robotic arms. ROVs can hover inches away from a fragile 200-year-old wooden mast or a 10,000-year-old stone carving without ever making physical contact. This precision is vital because even a slight touch could disturb the delicate chemical balance or silt layers that have kept these artifacts intact. Without these eyes in the abyss, the history beneath the waves would remain a collection of campfire stories rather than the verified archaeological record it is today. Secret 9. The world's densest shipwreck graveyard. While the oceans of the world are vast and deep, the Great Lakes are a confined, high-traffic corridor of historical tragedy. Maritime historians estimate that there are over 25,000 recorded shipwrecks scattered across these 5 freshwater basins. To truly grasp the density of this carnage, one only needs to look at Lake Erie, the shallowest of the lakes, which alone holds an estimated 8,000 shipwrecks. This represents a higher concentration of wrecks per square mile than almost anywhere else on the planet. The reason these wrecks are so significant to historians is their state of preservation in the salt oceans. A 19th century ship is often nothing more than a mound of ballast stone. But in the Great Lakes, wooden schooners from the 1800s remain upright, their masts still pointing toward a surface they will never reach. These vessels are silent, frozen witnesses to the industrial birth of America and Canada. They are trapped in a freshwater museum that refuses to let them decay, turning the lake beds into the most expansive and perfectly preserved underwater museum on Earth. Secret 10. The lake that never gives up her dead. Among the mariners of the North Country, there is a chilling adage: Superior never gives up her dead. This is not mere folklore. It is a brutal, scientific consequence of cold water preservation and the physics of death. In typical bodies of water, when a person drowns, bacteria inside the gut consume tissue and produce gases like methane and carbon dioxide, causing the body to float. However, the depths of Lake Superior stay at a constant, uniform 39 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. This temperature is effectively that of a liquid refrigerator. At this temperature, the bacteria responsible for decomposition cannot function. They are put into a state of suspended animation. Instead of rising, the bodies sink to the silt-covered floor and remain there, perfectly preserved for decades. It is estimated that 30,000 souls remain in this permanent icy slumber. Divers exploring deep-water wrecks have encountered ghost sailors from accidents that occurred nearly a century ago. Because of the cold and the lack of light, their features can remain recognizable and their clothing intact. This creates a museum of tragedy that demands absolute reverence. Secret 11. Time Capsules of the Deep, the SS Kamloops and Gunilda. To witness the full power of this preservation, we must look at specific time capsules of tragedy. The SS Kamloops, which vanished in 1927, and the Gunilda, often called the most beautiful shipwreck in the world, are not ruins. They are snapshots of the exact moment life ended. On the Kamloops, resting in the frigid waters off Isle Royale, The body of a crewman, nicknamed Old Man Whitey, has been visible for nearly a century. He is preserved through a rare chemical process called adipocere, or grave wax. In cold, oxygen-deprived water, the fats in the human body undergo a chemical transformation into a waxy substance that acts as a natural casing, protecting the form from decay. Similarly, the Gunilda, a luxury steam yacht that sank in 1911, sits in 270 feet of water in Lake Superior. Because it was never battered by surface waves or scavenged by sea life, it remains in a state of eerie perfection. The gold leaf on its bow still shimmers, the velvet curtains in the grand salon still hang from their rods, and the piano remains in the lounge. These vessels allow maritime forensics experts to step directly into the early 20th century, seeing the world exactly as it was before the lake claimed it. They serve as a bridge to the past, reminding us that every secret held by the Great Lakes is a story of a person, a dream, and a journey that was cut short by the very water that now protects their memory. Secret 12: The Moving Skyscrapers and the Anatomy of the Edmund Fitzgerald. To understand the sheer, unbridled violence of these inland seas, we must look at the mechanics of Lake Superior's water columns, often referred to by mariners as the moving skyscrapers. On the Great Lakes, waves do not behave like the long, rolling swells of the Pacific or Atlantic. Because these lakes are geographically constricted and significantly shallower than an ocean, waves are categorized as short period. This means they are steep, unnervingly close together, and hit with the kinetic energy of a falling concrete building. The most famous victim of this phenomenon was the SS Edmund Fitzgerald, a 729-foot steel Titan that was the largest vessel on the lakes at the time of its launch. On the night of the 10th of November 1975, the Fitz encountered a monstrous weather system that generated waves exceeding 30 feet. These were not merely waves in the traditional sense. They were vertical walls of water that stripped the radar arrays off the ship's mast and eventually overwhelmed its structural integrity. The forensic evidence suggests that the Fitzgerald didn't just sink, it was driven into the lakebed by the sheer atmospheric weight and downward force of the water. It vanished from radar at 7:10 p.m. without a single distress call. This tragedy remains the ultimate benchmark for maritime safety, proving that even a massive steel freighter is a fragile toy when Lake Superior decides to exert its gravitational and momentum-driven rage. The Fitzgerald now rests in 530 feet of water broken in two, serving as a permanent monument to the power of the moving skyscrapers. Secret 13: The Physics of Thermal Shock and Internal Detonation. While the public often believes that ships like the Fitzgerald are simply swallowed by the surface waves, maritime forensic engineering provides a much more violent explanation: the physics of thermal shock. When a massive steam-powered vessel is compromised and begins its final rapid say what, a catastrophic thermodynamic battle occurs within the hull. To generate the massive amount of energy required for propulsion, a freighter's boilers operate at temperatures exceeding 400 degrees Fahrenheit. As the hull breaches and the ship plunges into Superior's cold heart, where the water temperature remains a constant 39 degrees Fahrenheit, the pressure of the deep water forces its way into the engine room. The result is a nearly instantaneous explosion. The moment the near-freezing lake water touches the white-hot steel of the pressurized boilers, they do not merely crack, they detonate with the force of a naval mine. This internal explosion is so violent that it can literally tear a reinforced steel hull in two from the inside out before the vessel even touches the lake floor. Forensic divers and ROV surveys have used this theory to explain why the Fitzgerald and several other lakers lie in distinct pieces on the bottom, with debris fields scattered in a way that indicates a massive release of internal energy. It wasn't just the lake that broke the ship. It was the ship's own thermal energy turned against it in a final, explosive gasp, triggered by the unforgiving cold of the north. Secret 14. The Three Sisters. The Science of the Rogue Wave. Beyond standard storm surges lies a phenomenon that mariners feared as myth for centuries, until modern science proved its existence. The Three Sisters. This is a specific type of rogue wave system unique to the Great Lakes' unique bathymetry. It occurs when a rare synchronization of wind direction, underwater currents, and the lake bottom topography causes three massive successive waves to form. Unlike ocean rogue waves, which are often solitary, the Three Sisters hit in rapid succession. The physics of this event are lethal. The waves are so close together that a 700-foot or 1,000-foot ship cannot recover its buoyancy from the first wave before the second hits. By the time the third wave, the killing blow, arrives, the ship is already green-watering, with its deck submerged and its hatches under immense pressure. In October 2010, off the coast of Marquette, Michigan, modern acoustic sensors recorded these rogue surges, proving that the lakes can amplify a wave's height by nearly double the surrounding sea state in a matter of seconds. For a freighter, a Three Sisters event is a structural death sentence. The bow is often buried in the trough of one wave, while the stern is lifted by the crest of the next, leaving the midsection of the ship unsupported by the water. This leads to a catastrophic event known as hogging, where the steel hull snaps like a dry twig under the weight of its own cargo, sending the crew to the bottom in a matter of minutes. Secret 15. Lake Erie, the shallowest executioner and the silent killer. It is a dangerous and common mistake to assume that Lake Superior, being the largest and deepest, is the most perilous. In the world of maritime forensics, Lake Erie is recognized as the silent killer. Depth is often a sailor's best friend in a storm, providing a buffer against the surface turbulence. Erie, however, is the shallowest of the 5 lakes, with an average depth of only 62 feet. This shallow profile makes Erie hyper-responsive to wind energy. While a lake like Superior takes several hours of sustained wind to build a dangerous sea state, Lake Erie can transform from a glass mirror into a deadly washing machine in less than 30 minutes. Because the water is shallow, the waves cannot develop long, predictable periods. Instead, they become short, exceptionally steep, and unpredictable. This is further exacerbated by the wind tunnel effect created by Erie's geographical alignment, which funnels powerful west-to-east winds across its surface. This unique combination of factors has resulted in Lake Erie claiming more ships per square mile than any of its larger counterparts. It holds the highest mortality rate per square mile in the entire Great Lakes system. Erie serves as a grim reminder that the most unassuming shallow waters are often the most lethal for small and mid-sized vessels, which are easily capsized by the square waves that characterize this deceptive basin. Secret 16. Defying Gravity. The Arrogance of the Chicago River Reversal. To understand the modern, fragile state of the Great Lakes, we must examine one of the most audacious and arguably arrogant engineering feats in human history, the reversal of the Chicago River in 1900. At the turn of the 20th century, Chicago was a booming industrial metropolis, but it was literally drowning in its own filth. The city's sewage and industrial waste flowed into the Chicago River, which emptied directly into Lake Michigan, the very source of the city's drinking water. The result was a recurring cycle of death. Waterborne diseases like cholera and typhoid fever were wiping out thousands of citizens every year. To save the city, the sanitary district of Chicago undertook a Herculean task. They dug the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal. This massive trench was deeper than the river itself, designed to use gravity to force the Chicago River to flow backward. On the 2nd of January 1900, engineers opened the sluice gates, and for the first time in geological history, the water of Lake Michigan began flowing away from the lake, through the city, and into the Des Plaines and Illinois rivers, eventually reaching the Mississippi River Basin and the Gulf of Mexico. While this maneuver saved millions of lives and allowed Chicago to become a global hub, it created a permanent, artificial bridge between two of the world's largest and previously isolated watersheds. This unnatural connection set the stage for a biological catastrophe that no one at the time could have predicted, effectively opening a highway for invasive species to traverse the continent. Secret 17. The Biological Tax, a forensic deal with the devil. This leads us to a profound forensic realization. Every major engineering project on the Great Lakes has functioned as a deal with the devil. While projects like the Chicago River Reversal or the construction of the Welland Canal, which bypassed Niagara Falls, brought unprecedented economic prosperity by allowing ocean-going freighters, salties, to reach the heart of the continent, they acted as massive Trojan horses. By dismantling the natural geological barriers that had isolated the Great Lakes for 10,000 years, we effectively handed the keys of the kingdom to over 180 invasive species. In the world of maritime economics, this is known as the biological tax. This isn't a one-time fee. It is a permanent, multi-billion-dollar penalty on the Great Lakes economy. These invaders have fundamentally re-engineered the underwater world, destroying native fisheries and clogging essential industrial infrastructure. For every dollar earned in shipping cargo through these canals, a tax is paid in the form of ruined ecosystems and the staggering cost of management. We traded the long-term biological health of the world's largest freshwater system for the short-term convenience of a commercial shipping lane, and today the bill is coming due with interest. The Great Lakes are no longer a pristine wilderness. They are a managed industrial landscape struggling to survive its own success. Secret 18. The Zombie Pandemic. The Invasion of the 180. The Great Lakes are currently the site of a silent underwater war against what biologists describe as a zombie pandemic. Secret 18 explores the most devastating of these invaders, beginning with the sea lamprey. This prehistoric sea vampire, which arrived through the Welland Canal, features a circular, suction cup mouth filled with concentric rows of razor-sharp teeth. They nearly wiped out the native lake trout population by latching onto them and suctioning the life out of them. Following the lamprey came the zebra and quagga mussels, hitchhiking in the ballast water of ocean freighters. These tiny mollusks have carpeted the lake floors by the trillions, encrusting everything from shipwreck timbers to city water intake pipes. Their impact is forensic in its precision. They are so efficient at filtering water that they have stripped the lakes of the microscopic plankton that forms the base of the food web. This has created a clear water paradox. The lakes look more beautiful and clear than ever before, but this clarity is a sign of biological desertification. The water is artificially clear because it is biologically dead. Today, the front line of this war is found at the electric barriers in the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal, a multi-million-dollar defense system designed to prevent the voracious Asian carp from entering Lake Michigan and causing the total collapse of a $7 billion fishing industry. Perhaps the most dramatic story of human impact and subsequent redemption is Secret 19, the resurrection of Lake Erie. By the mid-1960s, Lake Erie was famously declared dead by national media. Decades of unregulated industrial dumping from cities like Detroit, Cleveland, and Buffalo, combined with massive phosphorus runoff from regional farms, turned the lake into a toxic soup. Massive algae blooms choked the oxygen out of the water, leading to dead zones where no fish could survive. The situation reached a peak of global absurdity on the 22nd of June 1969, when the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, so thick with oil, chemicals, and floating debris, literally caught fire. The image of a burning river became the international catalyst for the modern environmental movement and led directly to the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and the Clean Water Act. Against all scientific odds, Lake Erie has made a miraculous recovery. Through rigorous international cooperation between the U.S. and Canada, industrial pollution was slashed, and the lake was brought back from the brink of total ecological extinction. It stands today as a rare and powerful testament to human agency. It proves that while we possess the terrifying power to destroy these inland seas, we also possess the forensic capacity and the political will to heal them if we act in time. Finally, we must analyze the most recent and alarming forensic data regarding the very stability of the lakes. Secret 20. The Great Oscillation. For over a century, the Great Lakes maintained a relatively predictable, decadal cycle of rising and falling water levels. However, between 2013 and 2019, the system experienced a geological shock that has terrified hydrologists. In just 6 years, the water levels shifted by more than 6 feet, swinging from record-breaking lows to record-breaking highs with unprecedented speed. This extreme volatility, a phenomenon known as water level whiplash, is driven by climate-driven changes in evaporation rates and precipitation patterns. The forensic impact on the coastline is devastating. In Michigan and Ontario, million-dollar homes are being swallowed by the lakes as high water surges cause massive coastal erosion and cliff collapses. Simultaneously, the shipping industry is forced into a state of constant chaos as they must recalibrate the cargo loads of 1,000-foot freighters to the inch to avoid grounding in low-water channels or failing to clear bridges during high-water events. The lakes are no longer behaving according to historical models. They are entering a new, unpredictable era of instability. This oscillation serves as a final humbling reminder that despite our massive dams, reversed rivers, and electric barriers, we are still very much at the mercy of the shifting, unpredictable moods of the Great Lakes. The ultimate correction we must make is one of definition. The Great Lakes are not lakes, they are inland seas. To call them anything less is a geological understatement. Holding 21% of the world's surface freshwater, this system functions as a massive, interconnected engine that mimics the open ocean. These basins possess sophisticated thermoclines, oceanic currents, and seiches internal waves that create freshwater tsunamis in minutes. When you stand on the shores of Lake Superior, you are confronting an atmospheric titan that generates its own weather and dictates the economic survival of two superpowers, demanding the same reverence as the North Sea or the Mediterranean. The forensic record of these seas is written in ocean-scale forces, with a fetch long enough to build 35-foot moving skyscrapers. The Great Lakes have claimed over 25,000 ships and 30,000 souls. Their underwater topography features trenches deeper than the Empire State Building, circulating nutrients and debris via deepwater conveyor belts. North America is not merely a landmass between two oceans. It is a continent with a third freshwater ocean pulsing at its very heart. However, forensic data suggests a terrifying shift in the lake's defensive mechanics: the vanishing winter ice. Historically, ice acted as a structural shield, absorbing the kinetic energy of winter gales. In the last 50 years, average ice cover has plummeted by 70%. Without this armor, winter storms have become weaponized, slamming into the coastline with uninhibited force, swallowing homes and infrastructure from Michigan to Ontario. Beyond their violence, these seas are the ultimate life support system for 30 million people. As a massive thermal heat sink, they prevent the region from becoming as extreme and unforgiving as the high deserts of the Dakotas. Yet this system is under unsustainable strain. We have reversed its rivers, introduced apex predators, and filled its lightless depths with industrial waste. The Great Lakes are a mirror of human ambition and resilience, a freshwater vault keeping our secrets preserved in the 39 degrees Fahrenheit abyss. As we enter an era of unprecedented instability, one haunting question remains. We have spent 2 centuries trying to conquer these waters, but are we prepared for the day the inland seas decide to take back what is theirs? Before concluding today's message, thank you for embarking on this forensic journey. These waters hold the legacy of 25,000 wrecks and the stories of those lost to the deep. If you have a personal connection to these maritime tragedies or a story of the lake's power, please share it in the comments below. If this deep dive resonated with you, please like, share, and follow for our upcoming documentaries. I'll see you in the next video.